So the next thing that we really want to talk about, to me, really gets into the meat and potatoes of what this is and why we're here and what we're doing, which is if you have navigated the space of talking to somebody that you know a little bit, somebody you know a lot, and this thing gets dropped in your lap, right? I am having trouble. Then what do I do? And really quickly, I guess, I really do think about my internship in social work, and I really do think about the interns that I've had and maybe the lectures I've given and the classes that I taught on the subject. And I think with interns, the thing that makes me most comfortable being the supervisor is when they say, well, I don't know what to do yet, or I'm scared, or what if this happens? And I don't know that they believe me, but I always tell them that puts me at ease because that means you're concerned. That means you want to do well. That nothing scares me more as a supervisor, as someone who goes, oh, I got it. And I'm like, really? Because like, where'd that come from? I want to hear all about this confidence because maybe I'll learn something. And it's not that they aren't good at it or that they don't have it. They might be 10 times better than me. But if you don't know and you believe that, it's so risky and quite frankly, dangerous. And so the odd thing is that when you do find the person who's worried and curious about it, I've often found that the lesson that you teach is thoroughly unsatisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the lesson that I would give to any professional and to any lay person, which is please, please, please just be present. Say, thank you for telling me. I'm so glad that you trusted me if that's appropriate. You can say things like, I don't exactly know what to do, but I want to figure it out with you and I will hold your hand through the process. And I really, really, really do believe more than anything else, it's that idea of, people who admit that they might have scared people away by saying, I feel this bad. That I'm not going to be scared away is the response. That this is a reason to reach out further rather than, oh gosh, I can't, be here for this. So it is a lot of be yourself. It is a lot of match the vulnerability in a way. They've trusted you with something that you can trust them back with something, which is, I love you, or you know what, I don't exactly know what to do. Do you mind if I ask for help with this? Whatever your truth is the right answer.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that one. I honestly think the people who are most helpful, I know when I've been in the clinic and people have been brought in, if they have someone with them, that person's are like, hey, I'm just here to help. I just don't want something to happen to this person. Anything I can do to help out. And that, honestly, in that moment, that means the world to that person who's there. It absolutely means the world for that person who's there in that moment. Being vulnerable, being there, just being that person that's just walking with them. I know when people have come into the clinic and there's concerns about suicidal ideation or a suicide plan or you name it, and I'm being called to do a suicide assessment, the person that's often there with them, it means the world to that person in crisis at that time. Because it's like, hey, someone's showing they care. Someone's showing they care. They're not leaving me alone with this stranger who's going to ask me a whole bunch of questions. They're going to walk with me. They're going to be there. And most professionals, they do want someone to be around to get a little bit more of the story. It makes it a little easier if you've got a friend with you. Heck yeah, let's use that. Let's use that relationship. Maybe that can help us out in the long run.
Yeah, one of the big parts of the safety plan that we often have to engage or create is who are your natural or social supports, and to have that be confirmed in the room with you, or even in the lobby, it doesn't matter, right? To know that person is right there is like, okay, well, I'm going to have a lot more confidence that you do have a support system when you start naming them off because I shook their hand or waved at them or saw them walk you to your car kind of a thing. So I do think that that's a bit of a luxury, but it's also a necessity. Two things come to mind really quick. One is, we talk about this idea of stigma and the fear of bringing this forward. And I use a lot of metaphors in therapy, but I started using this metaphor that humans remind me a lot of cats in certain ways. That there are two major species of big cats, lions and tigers. If there are two tigers around each other, they're either fighting or they're mother and child or they're mating or something like that. Otherwise, they're marking their territory to make sure, that no one else comes around. I want to be left alone. I live a solitary life. Lions are the exact opposite, that they live, hunt, and, breathe in these packs. So that when you see a lion by themselves, you kind of have this assumption that something's up, that they were either kicked out of their pride for misbehavior or age or something like that, or that they have removed themselves because they're sick and they're afraid that they're going to infect, the rest of the pride. And that reminds me of human behavior in so many different ways, that when you see that isolation, it's, there's this wonder if something's up. And there are people who do very, very well on their own. There's no question about it, but it's okay to check. Hey, you good on your own? Okay, I trust you. If that changes, I want to be here for you, what have you. But when you see those two people come in together, then you're like, okay, well, the pride still exists, even if in just part. And so there's something to work with here, and we can create that bubble that feels good enough for us to kind of relax the hardest symptoms.
Yeah. We look at those, like you said, the warning signs, the isolation, we're always looking for those things. And, this ties into a question we got about, what do we do about those ones that we're concerned about?
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking for?
Yeah.
We're looking for things like, hey, are they isolated? Are they alone? Have they had a recent loss? I mean, how many times have we heard about widowers having the most struggles?
Sure.
How many times have we seen so many, guys who are on their own, they're elderly, the kids have moved on, the wife's passed away? Those are the ones we really want to reach out to and keep an eye on.
Yeah.
We also, we want to look at just, have they had behavior changes lately? The isolation part. Are they more withdrawn? Are they more forgetful?
Yeah.
Do they seem like they've been sleeping okay? Are they eating? Do they look more gaunt? Do their mannerisms change? Do they look more disheveled when they show up?
Yeah.
To lodge, I kind of think of this one brother I know, very prim, very proper, very articulate, then shows up a bit more disheveled one day. It's like, hey, we're a little worried about you. Anything we can do for you?
Mm-hmm.
Talked through over, it was okay.
I think the lesson that I probably teach most often is the idea that we're looking for patterns and broken patterns.
Yes, we are looking for patterns and broken patterns. I know in clinical practice too, and I'm seeing somebody maybe cycle a bit or go through a depressive episode. You're going to notice those little things. You're going to notice, the breaking of eye contact. You're going to notice, when you're checking in with them, how things are going. We're going to notice about, how's your appetite been? Well, I haven't been eating that much lately. I can't even think about food. When the session or two before, they were talking about this big cookout they just had. Hold on, what's going on here?
Yeah.
That's a red flag.
Certainly can be.
Maybe a yellow flag.
Yeah.
Yellow flag.
No, I'm with you. That the sudden loss of interest in things that are normally pleasurable.
Yes, that huge symptom, that anhedonia.
Yeah.
That nice fancy clinical term for losing interest in things you like to do. Or when I think of anhedonia too, let's say, Omar, you and I, you asked me to go to the Tigers game. And then I sit back and I think about, well, I've got to wash my Tigers shirt and I got to find my hat. Well, then I have to buy the ticket. Then I have to make sure that the dogs can get put out later on today. So I should probably call my neighbor to see if they can let the dogs out.
Yeah.
Then I have to get gas in the car. Then I have to go to the ATM. Oh, I'm not going to go. Omar, I'm going to have to cancel on this one. That's anhedonia. And maybe that's something for us to recognize in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
As if we're starting to get just simply overwhelmed by the things we would normally like to do. And we're starting to see that, okay, I'm looking at all the barriers that get in my way instead of saying, hey, yeah, I'm gonna up for this. What do I got to do to get this done? That's a sign we might want to check in on ourselves even.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's something to do for ourselves is, hey, how often are we taking care of ourselves here?
Yeah. I think the other gigantic lesson of how to be helpful is to know when it's time for someone else to step in. That you
Absolutely.
don't have to see the process through. And that's maybe confusing advice, because so much of what we're saying is like, oh, be there and follow them through the process. But your process may or may not end at passing off to somebody who can help more specifically or more effectively than I might be able to. And I say that even in my own world, that there are certain conditions that I am very excited to help treat. And there are certain conditions where I know, like, I don't do well with this population, and I can help you the best I can, but I'll be robbing you of somebody who's really good at this.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure you get to the right person very unselfishly. And so that's true of professionals, and it's equally true of social supports, in so much as, yeah, I can ask about you. Yes, I can, come over and eat something healthy with you, or I can come over and, eat ice cream with you. Yes, I can be there and humanize what we're going through. But I might only have the capacity to do it to a certain point. If you have worked in this field as long as you have, somebody has told you at a party or in your office, oh, I couldn't do what you do. Well, if I'm that friend who doesn't want to be a social worker because I like spreadsheets, or I like working in construction, or for whatever purpose, that's cool. You still get to be the friend. And then you find that person who's like, yeah, let's talk about this all day long. And then you work in tandem. We have the social supports as part of the safety plan because there are things that we can't do. I can't follow you home. I can't remind you when you're by yourself. I need that system there. But there should be symbiosis between the multiple parts. I was going to say 2 parts. There's probably lots more than 2. And so it's really so healthy. It's not abandonment to say, hey, let's go talk to this other person, and then I'll process it with you after you get home, as opposed to I have to be all things to all people. It is really authentic. It is really vulnerable to say, this is what I can and this is what I can't do. And it's true of us, and it's true of everyone.
There's just got to be this point where you're like, okay, I've got to call someone in on this one. And, offer that, hey, I'll go with you. Or, hey, you know what? 988 is a great resource. Let's call 988 together.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what they say, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Hey, it sounds like you're telling me that you really want to die. There's a clinic up the road, or, hey, there's an emergency room up the road. I'll drive you there.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely critical and essential to the entire process of being true to yourself. And you mentioned it earlier as far as like identifying, tough information about ourselves, right? Like I might be trying to wade into waters that I won't swim well in. And so I need to keep myself safe so that I can be helpful. To jump into the pit with somebody who's already in it doesn't really always help them out. In fact, it rarely does, right? Now we have 2 people who need help instead of 1. It's okay to say, hey, I'll be right back. I'm going to get some help, metaphorically, right? It's okay to ask for help from where it's necessary, as opposed to think, oh, I know the help you need, I'll do it. We might not be best at it.
No, we might not be the best.
And that's true of professionals and everyone else.
Absolutely. We might have to say, this is beyond my scope.
Yeah.
This is beyond what I can do, so I've got to go to someone who can help us out. And that's just okay to realize. There's no wrong door in that one.
So I think the big things for me are be curious,
Mm-hmm.
ask if people are okay, ask if I'm okay too, be present, be authentic, be vulnerable, and be aware that we don't have to be all things to all people, that we can find the help where it exists, as opposed to thinking I need to be that help.
I would absolutely agree with all those. You got to be authentic. You've got to be vulnerable with people, especially if they're struggling and you're their friend, and they're going to know that, hey, you know what? You hear them.
Yeah.
You hear them, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're experiencing a mental health crisis right now, 988 is a great first option to call. 988 has the ability to counsel you, to give you resources, and can also basically dispatch to get you where you need to go. 911 is a good second option too if you need immediate assistance from the police.
I agree completely. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is by far the way to go because they have the most resources. But if you are with somebody and trying to support somebody who's also going through it, it's a lot of the things that is mentioned in all of these episodes, which is be present, be aware and just be human, be yourself, and admit what you can and what you can't do, but let them know that you're there with them through the process. And the end goal is safety until we can get to the next step. Thanks so much. We wish you all the best of health.